dedicating this video to one of my favourite storylines that was axed from the Harry Potter films. It's a true classic for me, exactly the sort of plot that makes me gasp for the HBO series. It's Hermione at her very best, when she's completely obsessed with something and she's like a dog with a bone. I am speaking, of course, about Hermione's House Elf Liberation storyline. So, Hermione's mania for supporting House Elf rights begins at the start of the Goblet of Fire year, at the Quidditch World Cup, when the House Elf Winky, who was at the time serving the Crouch family, was unfairly blamed for casting the Dark Mark by Amos Diggory, who is Cedric's father, and to be fair, definitely gets his karma later on in that year. And then Winky was fired on the spot by Barty Crouch Sr. Now, Hermione sees this with her own eyes and she decides that the house elf had been treated like rubbish, which in fairness, she had. And it's then that she starts to notice that house elves are literally slaves. Not like it wasn't obvious before. I mean, come on. It's shortly after this, when they're at the start of the year feast at Hogwarts, that she realises that all the food they eat in every meal at Hogwarts is made by a squadron of house elves. What I don't get though, right, is how is that a revelation to her? She'd been at Hogwarts for 3 full years by this point. Also, it's Hermione we're talking about. I feel like she probably knows what every single teacher has for breakfast. In what world does she not know that there are house elves working at Hogwarts? It's Nearly Headless Nick that tells her that there's more house elves in Hogwarts than any other building in Britain. They not only do all the cooking, but they do all the cleaning as well. Which is a massive revelation to Hermione, but like, how is that a revelation? What, did she think that Filch did all the cleaning? Imagine Filch shuffling around on his all fours wearing Marigold rubber gloves. Filch, the wheezy old man with his cat and zero magic, somehow cleans the entire castle every day. Like, in what world would that happen? Anyway, so Hermione, upon finding out about this, goes on hunger strike. She's not too pleased that there's a bunch of slaves working at Hogwarts, and she's even more fuming about the fact that there's no mention that there's a bunch of house elves working at Hogwarts in Hogwarts A History, which is a book that she notoriously knows like the back of her hand. Classic Hogwarts historians rewriting history to make themselves look good. Disgraceful. I mean, for me, the real irony of this storyline is that everyone just treats her like she's some nutter just harping on about house elf rights. Everyone just sort of rolls their eyes at her and laughs at her for banging on about it. But the thing is, she's not wrong, is she? There are literally hordes of slaves working at Hogwarts. It's a bit outrageous when you stop and think about it. Anyway, so after a few weeks of waffling on about it, she sets up an organisation called SPEW, or S-P-E-W. Now, SPEW stands for the Society and Protection of Elfish Welfare. She says that the main aims of the society are to get elves fair wages and working conditions, which doesn't seem unreasonable, but also to get them representation at the Ministry of Magic, also fair. Now, she automatically enrolls Harry and Ron into the organisation as secretary and treasurer. And in their first ever society meeting, she tells Harry to start taking the meeting minutes. It's hilarious because they literally don't ever even agree to be part of this society and they're just sort of forced to join against their will. Harry's just a bit blasé about it, but Ron is adamantly like, no, house elves love being enslaved, so stop going on about it. Now, this seems like a pretty horrible position for Ron to take. Imagine refusing to fight against slavery because you convinced yourself that they love it. But like, in Ron's defense, loads of people think like this. Hagrid more or less says the same thing when Hermione tries to get him to join SPEW, and actually point blank refuses to join, saying that even suggesting to elves that they should be freed would be an insult to them. And in fairness to Hagrid and Ron, they kind of do love being enslaved. A few months down the line in the same year, Hermione, Ron and Harry go down to the Hogwarts kitchens, where they had been a couple of times throughout this year to chat to the house elves. Well, mainly to chat to Dobby, to be fair, who had recently started working there. Apparently, after Dobby left the Malfoys' employ by being freed by Harry a couple of years before, he was struggling to get work as a freed elf, which isn't really surprising. I guess from the magical community's perspective, why take on a free elf that you would have to pay and give holidays to, when you can just keep a slave to do all the work for free? Savage. So anyway, Dobby rocks up to Hogwarts and asks Dumbledore for a job, who gives him a job working in the kitchens with the other house elves, but he actually pays him and even agrees for him to take the odd day off, which is generous. So yeah, Harry, Ron and Hermione go and visit Dobby in the kitchens every now and then. And Winky of all people, or of all elves, should I say, is also there working. Winky, as I said before, had been fired by Barty Crouch Sr. Now, Winky had been struggling since being fired, and Dumbledore also took her on working in the kitchens, but she was not enjoying the freed life like Dobby was, and she was refusing Dumbledore's offer of payment, and she said that she would prefer to work as a slave instead. But sadly, she had not got over everything that had happened with Barty Crouch, and she basically became an alcoholic, drinking loads of butterbeer every day. Which is interesting because I've had butterbeer and I'm pretty sure there's no alcohol in it, right? Now, on one of these visits down to the kitchens, Hermione, trying to cheer Winky up, gives all the house elves in the kitchens a massive speech, telling them that they have the right to be free and to be paid and to get pensions and annual leave. And the elves basically get really annoyed with her and offended, and they get embarrassed and end up throwing Harry, Ron and Hermione out of the kitchens. Which in a way sort of proves Ron's point. They kind of do like being enslaved, apart from Dobby anyway. It's really sad and messed up when you think about it. The house elves have been oppressed for so long that they've internalized it to be generally convinced that they are lesser creatures. It's so sad, and Hermione, to be fair, is completely right to try and change things for them. It's just a shame that most other wizards, like Ron, just lazily don't question it and are too happy to stick with the status quo. Not Hermione though, she does not let it go. So the year progresses, Harry competes in the Triwizard Tournament, Cedric Diggory dies, Voldemort comes back to life, etc, etc. But Hermione does not give up on Spew. It takes a little bit of a backseat during their 5th year because of the whole Voldemort being back to life thing, but Hermione still ploughs relentlessly on and decides that the way to free the house elves at Hogwarts is by hiding woolly hats underneath pieces of actual rubbish in the Gryffindor common room. So Hermione's plan is that the house elves will go to grab the pieces of rubbish when they're cleaning the common room and accidentally pick up the hats, which will set them free against their will. What a plan! The house elves will be free whether or not they want to be. The only thing I find weird about this plan is like, who's to decide whether a piece of clothing an elf picks up counts towards freedom or not? It's probably a little bit of a plot hole, and I've heard other fans talking about it as well. Anyway, so Hermione spends a lot of her free time during their 5th year knitting hats and gloves to try to free the house elves against their will. But the plan doesn't really go to plan. The house elves, being as switched on as they are, clock on to what Hermione is trying to do, and they get offended by what she's trying to do. So eventually they stop cleaning the Gryffindor common room. They refuse to do it. So Dobby ends up cleaning the Gryffindor common room all by himself, and he starts collecting all the hats and socks and gloves that Hermione has been knitting. Hermione doesn't know this, and she thinks that she's been freeing a bunch of house elves. I love this from her, like, what did she think was going to happen when they were free? They'd all just leave Hogwarts. Like, who's then going to do all the cooking? After 5th year, Hermione's dedication to the cause sort of fizzles out a bit, and Spew takes a complete backseat in her life. Sad really, but it was fun while it lasted. I just absolutely love this storyline. It's hilarious how she just doesn't give up, and she spends 2 years relentlessly ploughing on with Spew, even though everyone just sort of laughs her off. Hermione has a few of these sort of pet projects and obsessions over the year, and it's exactly the sort of thing that was missed out from the Harry Potter films to save time, but we will hopefully get to see in the HBO TV series. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, drop it a like and subscribe to the channel for more. Big up the House Elf Liberation Front.